right, welcome back, League Night listeners. It's your alliteration for the day. Thanks for coming back again. Glad we've got a ton of new viewers coming in, so welcome. Please, if you like what's going on, like, subscribe, share it, ring the bell, do all those things. Click the button, please, and thank you. We really appreciate it. So we had a lot of good feedback from the last breakdown video we did, that I did of my swing. So today, Jason is back, and we've got a couple of his swings up. And so what we wanted to do today is we're going to take a look at one of his swings that goes really right and one that doesn't go so right. And so what I thought we could do is we're going to have him check out his swing, have him self-evaluate his swing, see what he thinks, and then I can evaluate his evaluation or I can evaluate what I see. And so I think this is a good exercise. So again, if you learn as a player, if you learn to evaluate your own swing and you have friends that learn to evaluate their swings as well, then you'll all get good at it and you can evaluate each other's, you can help each other out. And that's how, that's how everybody learns. I know as, a strength coach, weightlifting coach, and as a weightlifter, there's things that I do when I'm lifting weights that I can never tell that I'm doing unless someone else sees it. So this is the same type of thing, is that no matter how good you are, someone else watching and helping through is always a good thing. So that's what we're going to try to mimic a little bit here today. So first one, I'm going to just play it through a couple times full speed. So that way you guys can see what's going on here. This is one that, again, went pretty well. Drove the ball pretty hard up the middle, if I remember correctly here. So, I assume that's pretty much a pitch you're looking for most of the time. Like that's your pitch. If I'm
good follow
assuming.
Through. Probably went about 315, I think, to left center ish. Yep.
We'll watch it through full speed again. Well, full speed, I should say, in slow-mo. This is as fast as it goes. Yeah, this is full speed in slow-mo, and then we can kind of slow it down frame by frame. So, all right.
One thing that we'll definitely talk about is, the benefit of evaluating your swing and having somebody else evaluate it is, as you start to think about those things that you're focusing on, when you don't do those things correctly, you'll start to feel it. So when we get to the one where we're going to talk about something that didn't go right, you and I doing this so often, like I'll look at you after a swing and say, oh man, I did this. So, the more repetition you go through evaluating your swing and seeing what your habits are, especially if they're habits that limit your power and your exit velo and things like that, you'll start to feel it. So you have somebody telling you you're doing it, and eventually your body's going to start telling you you're doing it as well.
Yeah, and there's almost like a progression with that if you start paying attention, you'll start noticing that something went wrong, but you may not know what it was. Then eventually, as you do it more and you recognize when something goes wrong more, then you're going to start to recognize what it was that went wrong. And then you're going to be able to start correcting it. And then kind of the next step after that is someone telling you they're seeing something wrong that maybe you can't even feel yourself. So there's like all these layers of learning that can happen by doing this stuff. And again, you don't have to film every BP session you ever have done, but getting a lot of swings, 10, 20, 30 swings on film just to take a look at all the good and bad, it's super helpful. So, all right, I'm going to start kind of slowly frame by frame coming in here. So you tell me when you want me to stop and if there's something you want to point out. So we've got
something that's really funny that I noticed that I try to do a good job of having my bat flat at pitch. And I thought, because you keep your bat flat almost exclusively the entire swing. And I thought mentally that I do that. And I don't. Clearly, as you can see here, I do not keep the bat flat the whole time.
Mine's freakishly flat, so you can't compare.
It's not an issue, but I think it just gives a little bit more opportunity for variability.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll see it flatten out by the time you get your hands back. So, so one thing, and I'll just have you talk about it if you want. I don't know if it means anything to you, but I've just noticed that you do, and a lot of people do. So your stance is starting here, but you take this step back first, get set.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a load, and it's also a timing thing for me.
Got it. Okay, so that helps your timing.
Yeah. So you'll see my back foot or my front foot will plant back as I load. So I'm kind of like, more or less, if you think of it as a spring, I'm compressing the spring as I go back. And then you'll see as the ball starts coming into the frame is when I'll start uncoiling the spring.
Right. So I think I caught you right about where you plant right there.
Yeah. Now this time, because we'll look at it a couple times. The first thing I'm looking at right now is my chin. And right now my chin is plastered to that front shoulder.
Yes, it is.
And I want to make sure that it stays that way. Even though your shoulders will move, I want to make sure that I'm keeping that head down and on the ball the whole time and as motionless as possible. I know one of the things that when I get in slumps, that will be one of the things that'll be the problem is I'll just start watching the ball before it leaves. And that will just make a little bit of a difference in your contact point. So that's the first thing I'll look at here is, how does that look?
Yeah, I can't imagine you were looking away from the ball when you hit this one because you hit it real hard. So
yeah, my head almost actually looks frozen right there.
Let's see if I find about point of contact right there. And then there she flies.
Decently low, that it's...
Yeah, it's a drive.
It's got to exit. Yeah.
But it's not like
one that's your home run swing,
shot.
trying to hit it off the fence kind of thing.
Right. Back this up a little bit here.
Good extension on the front leg from there. You're really unloading. That's one of the things that if you're really trying to put power in, you'll notice you'll get a full straight leg extension.
Yep.
You can kind of see that. You're really unloading through the hips.
Yeah, for sure. Anything specific you would point out that you think, obviously we pointed out things you did well. Anything that jumped out at you that you think you did super well in this swing and or anything you think you didn't quite do on this swing but it still worked?
Let's go ahead and roll it back.
Yep. Let's see if I can
let's see where we're at.
Back to the beginning here. Yeah. Anytime you want me to stop, I can circle things here. I can point things here.
So there's the load. So we're putting a lot of weight on that back.
Yep.
Foot.
That's your timing.
See the toe tap.
Yeah.
You'll kind of start seeing the ball come into the trajectory as I'm starting to unload off that front foot. That's where we're driving. And the other thing is I'm committing to where I want to put the ball at that point in time. So, depending on if it's outside and I need to drive through the opposite field, you'll see me kind of step towards the center of the batters or the center of the plate area and make sure that I drive through or I'm stepping straight if it's kind of more of a middle.
Yeah, and from where this one looks, it looks like it was pretty straight on because it looks like
I can stop there. So it looks like I do a good job. If you roll it back just a few frames, I do a good job. Even though the bat comes vertical, the bat does get back into a good horizontal spot. So I'm not having to do too much.
Yeah, you bring it there. Yeah.
You see a good drive through the knob right now. Like you can really visually see the knob. And then a decent, I think there's still room for improvement on the snap there. We can see the bat does appear to speed up as it gets to the contact point, but there's still room for improvement there, I would say. I think that right now the way that swing works is it's a consistent swing. It's not a home run swing by any sense of the imagination. I think, knowing the way that I swing, like I probably top out about 315 maybe, and I could probably put some distance on if I really improve the snap. And when we get to the bad swing, you'll see specifically that I try to snap and I'll just miss sometimes too.
Yeah, I would say from what I've seen of your swing, when you're doing things, when you get the pitch you want and you're doing the things the way you want it, this is the type of swing you make. This is the...
Yeah.
And again, this one actually elevates a little bit more than a lot of your... Because you hit a lot of line drives that, they got to be coming off the bat at 90 plus, and, they won't go more than 20 feet high or so. And so they'll go out super fast, but they'll land at 185 or 200, and then a lot of times they'll go to the wall or they'll get past somebody, or the outfielders have to go back to get it, and I think you get a lot of those extra base hits. Normally when I see you hit those like monster home run shots, it's usually when you get a low pitch and you kind of golf shot it. Like that's the one where you just hit those like monster fly ball 350 feet, And again, it's fine for that to happen, but and I know you agree, you would not want to base your game on that, right? Like that. No. That's not what you want. That's not your regular. That's every once in a while type of thing, almost like you're up or you're playing around, or I just want to swing for it this time because we're down by 30 and it doesn't matter, whatever it is. So
yeah. The only other thing that I'll think of, and I want to kind of reiterate this, is look at the path to the ball versus the path through the ball. You'll notice it's a very long follow through. And one of the things that I really try to focus on is be really short to the ball and then be really long through the ball, which is really ensuring that you're just following all the way through. So if you look here, as the swing starts, really trying to drive the knob through to the ball, you get to the ball pretty quickly. And it is, there's not a lot of wasted motion.
Right.
And then when you get the extension where you're really following through and driving through the ball, you'll notice that the swing is probably 2 to 3 times longer.
Yeah.
As you unload all of that energy through the ball.
Right.
So you're trying to be efficient to the ball, which means you're not trying to, extend those arms out and just kind of full swing through. You're really being tight to the ball and then unloading, which is where that length comes into the backswing through the ball.
Right. Yeah. Because again, you kind of keep that back elbow pretty tight. And then once you've gotten all that energy out and you've contacted, that's when it all extends out and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree on that.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. I mean, I would just, as a general breakdown, just things that are interesting and maybe only interesting because they're different from what I do is, again, we talked about already that step back, which, so if we find where he starts or when he gets back there, like I'm usually a little closer than that, but I'll actually start with my feet more like that. And I don't know if that's why, like, I know you've said before, sometimes you trip, let's say, pitching where they can like kind of deke you out. But sometimes that can throw off your timing a little bit. And I've always, like, timing has never been an issue for me. And I don't know if it's just because I don't do that or not, but something to consider. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's something to think about. And
when
then
you're getting those faster, flatter pitches, it definitely can be something. When somebody dekes you a few times and then comes in with a lower, quicker one, you might rush through, which might not be optimal.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely something to consider for sure.
Yep. And then this is kind of fun because this is, let me see if I can find the spot here where you land. So this is where your and I swing, I think, are very different, though both pretty effective. I would argue that your distance for your step here is considerably shorter than mine. But I think, at least, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think you use your upper body in your swing way more efficiently than I do. And I think I use my lower body way more efficiently. So I think, and again, I don't think either one of them is wrong.
So pinpoint specifically what you think I do more efficiently than you do, and then what inefficiencies I have in my lower half that you would improve.
Well, okay, when I say inefficiencies, I don't necessarily mean it's bad. I just mean that if you were going to say this whole thing is 100% system, I'm probably a like 60-40 lower body to upper body, where I think you're maybe the opposite. You're like 40 lower, 60 upper. I think, again, because you're like a fast twitch athlete and I am not. So I think you are able to create a lot more energy up here than I am able to. And therefore I have to make up for it with my lower body. Cause I can't, like, I don't think I can get my arms just, like, if I was just to arm swing, like if you and I were just to arm swing, I think you would hit the ball a lot harder than me. So I think you don't have to have as much. So again, that's just something I notice. And again, I don't think it's right or wrong. But I feel like
one thing that I noticed after watching your video and you breaking down your own swing is that I leave a little bit on the table when it comes to fully unloading the hips. Like, I don't think I get my hips fully turned. Yeah. Which could be kind of to your point, which is I have more energy that I can generate through my lower half that I might not be utilizing. Right. Whereas you have found a way to better utilize that. So if you look at my hips when I'm here, I'm not actually fully through yet.
Yeah, so that's a point of contact. So you still might, you still might be pointing towards right field.
A little bit of a turn that I could rotate it into.
Yeah, maybe.
So that's something I can work on. if I was to try to add power or distance, would be really just getting more
A little more
snap
hip.
in my hips to really just open up and generate that extra torque from my lower half that I just don't utilize as much of.
Yeah, and again, if we're looking at this as a pure power type of question, yeah, you're probably right. But if we're talking
Who doesn't
about
want more power, Cam? We're here to generate more power.
Yeah, all right. This is our Tim Allen.
Hey, if I generate more power and I'm still hitting it low,
Right.
I still win.
That's true. Now, this is a thing that you have to think about, not just you, but anyone would have to think about.
Everybody.
Okay, let's say you are Jason and you're like, I want to add more power, so I'm going to try to add this hip motion, but you have to consider at what cost. So maybe he can add that hip motion, but now he's not as accurate at hitting the ball. And now instead of hitting 3 home runs every 10 games, he hits 4 home runs every 10 games. That's cool. But if his batting average goes from 725 to 625, that's not cool. So you kind of have to, you know what I mean? Not that 625 is bad, but if you're a 725 hitter, I personally, I would never give up 100 on base points for 1 extra home run. You know, never would I ever do that. So again, things you need to think about. If getting those hips turned is a thing you want to work on in practice, but you don't want to integrate into your game swings until it's automatic. You know, you don't want to have to be thinking too hard when you're in a game situation. In a game situation, you just want it to work. So definitely something, again, agreed that you could improve on it. But if you asked me, should I try to do that in the game on Saturday? I'd be like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? So again, great for tuition and great for looking ahead, but not something you want to just throw into your game situation immediately. Lower body, again, the longer stride, I think might be a little helpful, but again, if it throws off your balance, I'm not mad about it. You hit the ball hard. One thing that is interesting, and you pointed it out already, let's see if I can get to that point. So you were pointing out how you actually straighten that leg fully out when you hit. So like there's point of contact, and you'll notice you're already straightening. Let's see if I can get it on here. You're already straightening this out because we're starting. So you kind of have this angle here. So then you'll notice even just between those like 3 or 4 frames, like you're already straightening that thing out. And then by the time you're actually extended, I mean, you get that leg fully straightened out. So I would argue, even though, go ahead.
It's a baseball thing for sure.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that most power hitters in baseball will do is they'll get that really good extension and straight leg on their front leg. So probably a little bit of the root of that.
Yeah. But again, I would say because you get braced so hard on that, it probably makes up for, you know, not having maybe as long of a stride or whatever, maybe not quite getting your hips fully turned. So I would say those probably net zero. You know, because again, if we go back and looked at my swing, I don't get straightened out like that. Like I have, maybe it's probably pretty similar to the angle we drew on here for you. So like I don't ever actually get straightened out, or at least not very often. So again, good thing there. I would keep it. Don't get rid of it. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
And then again, like follow through is pretty good. Again, you hit the ball in the right spot. We'll notice bat path. So there's your bat head. As you're coming forward, point of contact.
Drops just a smidge.
Just barely.
You know.
I mean, barely.
It's marginal, but it's noticeable.
Right. Let's see if I can actually.
But only in slow-mo.
Yeah, exactly. Only in slow-mo.
I mean, it's generally flat. You know, there's definitely a little bit of barely dipping, but it's there.
And I think too, like that's probably even. Because it's the same thing when we looked at my swing, is I do dip a little bit there, but I think probably a lot of that is less about you dipping and more about you just bringing the bat into position, right? Because once we get to here, those next few, like that's a pretty straight line, right? So I think some of this back here is just you bringing, because you'll notice it's just coming down into position. So really, once you get to here, now you've got your angle set and you stay pretty flat through it. And even through the ball, I mean, you stay flat.
Yeah, the follow through is very flat.
until that arm gets extended. And then once the arm gets extended, obviously just your anatomy won't let you keep going straight that direction. You have to come up, or else you just start spinning. And trust me, if you're spinning at the back of your swing, you got to fix that. Like, you're losing a lot if you're spinning. So yeah, I would argue.
I have a hard time getting out of the box too.
That's true. That's true. You gotta catch your balance before you can even start to go out of the box on that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty solid swing. Again, I would argue that's one of the better ones we caught on film. I did want to we're going to bring up one here that we labeled as late snap. So this is one that did not go quite as well. I would argue you didn't quite get the pitch you were looking for here. But, and again, popped it up. We can go back, watch it again. Go ahead and just tell me what you think you're seeing here. What jumps out at you as what maybe didn't go right?
So a couple of things. I think part of it is that I'm not, when I get a pitch that I really want to drive, sometimes I rush through the back part of my swing. And so I will, my timing will get off. And so one thing that we noticed when we watched this swing is pause it right around the point of contact.
Okay.
So keep going. So right there, I'm going to make contact. Right. And so that looks, in general, it looks okay. Notice that I'm hitting the bottom half of the ball.
Not even the bottom, you're like the bottom quarter of the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
So immediately that tells me one of two things. Either I got through too soon, meaning I sped up the mechanics of the back part of it, or, I just missed it if I took my eye off the ball. Now, in kind of looking at my head position, I don't think that's the case. So, one of the things that we talk about all the time, and especially when your eyes get big and you see that watermelon coming at you, you're just like, oh gosh, I want to destroy this, is
just a beach ball.
Rush through that back part of the swing, which is something that I do a lot when I just miss something. And I would bet you that I rushed through it a little bit and I got too fast. And so what happens is I started to drag the barrel through the zone, right?
Right.
So you'll notice when point of contact is made and then the frames after that, I don't actually get to the snap of the bat until right there.
Right.
You see, as I'm snapping my wrist, I've already followed through the swing. The ball's already left the plate, and then I snap. And that's just a timing issue where I rushed through the back half of my swing because I got excited probably. And
who wouldn't?
I still hit it, but if I was a little bit slower and I timed up that snap, even a fraction of a second later, I'm hitting the middle of the ball and snapping through and getting that drive through, as opposed to, kind of hitting a 250-foot pop-up to left center field or center field, can of corn, as Jay-Z likes to say.
Yeah, it would be a can of corn.
Being patient when you find your pitch and making sure you just continue to do the same thing every time, don't worry about what pitch it is. If you maintain the same mechanics and you're just very, very methodical to the ball and then really explode through it, you'll minimize that bat drag that's going to affect the timing and, kind of launch angle connection point with the ball. And it's also going to ensure that your exit velo and your power is really as best you can put into it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Let's look at the barrel and see if there's any, it looks okay. It does come up a little bit.
See, one thing I'm noticing here. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not seeing as disciplined of a drive through the knob of the bat this time. So again, I'm just dragging the barrel behind my swing as opposed to really driving through the knob. I'm just kind of dragging, which is going to limit the bat speed a little bit as well.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a rushed thing that's kind of throwing the mechanics off.
Yeah, and one thing I'm noticing here a little bit, so two things. One, I think one's probably causing the other.
Interesting.
All right, so I drew them in here. What I'm seeing, it's not quite, but it's almost like you noticed your bat was too low, so you tried to bring it up, and then when you swung, swung down. So you almost made like a little bit of an S. So you notice how that thing's coming up and down. And again, I don't know if that was because of where the ball was or what, but you kind of tried to come up at the ball and then you started moving down. And so instead of driving through, like if we just took this back half, it looks like you're going to come up at an angle through the ball, but then you kind of drop down to keep it flat, and you end up just hitting the very bottom of the ball and popping it up.
Yeah.
So I would say that's one thing that really stood out to me. And then the second thing, which I know you didn't want, is so on this, let's start at maybe like here. So I think it's most evident, watch the bottom of your feet as we go through here, especially right here. You don't actually leave the ground, but you almost jump, you notice? And so you don't have that solid contact with the ground because you're trying to come up at that ball so hard. And I think, and again, as soon as you jump, it's over. Like you still, again, I think because you are so good at using your upper body, you're still able to generate enough to put it at like 250 feet fly ball. But I've worked with a bunch of guys that actually leave the ground when they swing. And they're trying really hard to just hit the ball hard, which I get, but for whatever reason, they're not quite understanding yet that front foot shouldn't be trying to elevate. It should be digging in, right? That front foot, really when things go right, it's digging into the ground, and then you're bracing back against it. Because you'll notice, like, your upper body on this back leg, like, when you straighten that leg out, it should really probably rise a lot, but it's not rising much because your foot's already off the ground. So it's just trying to push itself back down at that point. So again, I think that's just like a power leak in that swing. And again, I know this isn't your normal. Like this is clearly when something goes wrong, but we wanted to look at something that was, everything didn't go quite right, but we can learn from it still. And I think this is a really good example of that. Don't worry, folks. We're not going to just pick on Jason. At some point, we're going to get some of my crappy swings in here too. Only bad part is that I'm usually the one behind the camera, so I don't have as many of my swings, unfortunately. So we'll have to get some more. But I mean, for the most part,
I think. Go ahead. A lot of it too, like we talked about, is if I tried to rush through the swing, my bat started on a plane where I expected to connect. Yeah. Being too quick, my mind is trying to adjust to make contact, which starts the upward trajectory of the bat swing. And the lift is just generally bringing the entire body up, right? Yeah. So that's why that heel of my front foot isn't staying dug into the ground, because I'm trying to lift to get to the ball because I'm ahead of where it's supposed to be, and everything just kind of follows behind that.
Right. Yeah, again, I can't pretend to know what was going through your head, and I'm sure it happened too fast. You probably didn't know either. But what it looks like to me is that you saw the pitch coming in, you liked the pitch, and you were like, oh, I'm going to meet that pitch where it's at. And then almost like halfway through, you're like, oh, no. I need to keep this flat so that I can just hit a line drive instead of hitting a ball, up and out. I want to hit a ball straight out instead of up and out. And it looks to me like maybe you changed your mind at the last second there, and you were like, no, hit this thing flat. And then again, like, because you got that slight downward angle right here, like that would be a really solid cut swing line drive if you hit that ball like just barely under the center. But again, I think because of the adjustment that was made, you hit the bottom like quarter of the ball, and then it just straight up in the air, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, overall, I think definitely can learn from that. Again, it's not a terrible hit. You're gonna do this. Anybody's gonna do this. Sure. In games, in batting practice, it's gonna happen. But the reason we like to break this stuff down is to try to figure out what happened, what went wrong, and then try to figure out why, and then try to figure out how to make that happen less often. Because again, this is softball / baseball / anything like that. Nobody's going to hit 1,000. It's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to hit every ball the way you want to hit it. So it's a numbers game. You just want to try to get the most success from the opportunities, not to try to succeed every time. That's just how the game works. So, I think that's pretty good. I kind of like what we went over here. Any last thoughts on anything we've seen here today?
Do you want to scare the viewers?
I do actually. So
You know what I'm saying.
I do. This is actually my favorite. This was from the same day. This is my favorite swing of the day. Now remember, I'm the one taking these videos, right? So it's on a tripod, but I am behind the tripod, and this is the best swing of the day right here. So.
This is why you should be selective in your pitches.
Steps way inside, barely hits the ball, and it went about 3 feet over my head. And you can see from his reaction, he's like, I almost killed you, and that was funny. But yeah, that ball came like whizzing over my head. I'm pretty sure I yelled at him right after that too. Like, dude, you're not supposed to do that.
It almost looked like I tried to do that.
It does, especially from the smile. You're like, I got you.
Also, shout out Riot Sports for that lovely autism awareness long sleeve.
That's true. Nice
Great
long
BP
sleeve
shirt.
there. All right, I think that's it for us. Thanks a lot, guys.
Oh, yeah, you'll leave him with that photo. I like it.
Yep. Thank you for watching, everyone. We really appreciate it. Depending on what platform you're watching us on, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Anything you can do to let us know that you like what we're doing here. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.